Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast. We are recording yet again at the Craft Beer Cellar on Main Street in Plymouth. Here for all your beer drinking, wine swilling needs. And we are here today with stand-up comedian Tom Stewart.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. Our mutual friend AJ Haypenny sent you to the show.
He did.
So
he did.
You can hold him responsible for...
Yeah, I don't know what I was on when I agreed to this. You want to do a podcast? Oh, yeah, sure. Monday night in the basement of a liquor store? Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Just sign me up for that.
This is a very nice basement. They actually call it a classroom.
Well, I've worked in worse places than that, believe me. Yeah.
We even have like a little lounge area set up.
You do. You have a little
which I motion
area.
to, like anyone's going to hear me motion. But
in case I had brought my posse with me, they'd have a place to
it happens
hang out.
sometimes. We have people that bring people.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird.
I was flying solo today. Yeah.
So, how did you get... let's start with the basics. How did you get into the comedy scene? Were you the class clown?
Such an interesting question, huh? Well, about 10 years ago, I just decided, you know what comedy needs? Another single white Irish guy.
Do you talk a lot about travel, too?
Yeah, airplanes and all that. No, comedy's just always been in my blood. And, 10 years ago... it was always like a bucket list thing for me to try stand-up comedy. I've always loved it since I was a kid, listening to Eddie Murphy on cassette and Howie Mandel and Stephen Wright and all them. And I always wrote comedy in one way or another, radio jobs and the internet, and just there was always places for me to do something funny. Even just places I worked, I would be writing things and make everyone read them or listen to them. And then 10 years ago, a friend of mine, she took a comedy class. My friend Kim Reese, she took a comedy class, and she's not a comedian. She just took it just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And after she was done with it, she's like, Tom, you really should do this. She's like, this is all people who think and act just like you. You should be in that class,
Did you take that as a compliment or an insult?
I did. I took it as a compliment, yeah. And so she hooked me up, and I went into the class. It was with a comedian named Frank O'Donnell down in Rhode Island, and I took an 8-week course with him. And the first time I went on stage was at Catch a Rising Star, and I didn't stop since then. I've just been doing it, and now, 10 years later, this is what I do for a living.
Did you immediately be like, oh, this is it? Or were you like, that was horrible, I got to get up and do that again?
I loved it. It felt like it was something that I was meant to do, but I knew how hard it was going to be. And so I just made that commitment that I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Literally, after about 2 years, I was like, I really want to make this work for me somehow. Like, I don't think I'll ever be big and famous, but I want to make this what I do. I want people to know me as a comedian. Even if I do something else during the day to pay my bills, I want people to know me as a comic.
Yeah.
So I did. I focused on writing and getting up on stages and performing and just over and over and just as much as I could,
Now... I know a lot of creative types and people who've worked on comic books and comic strips and whatever, and they'll show it to like a couple of friends, and it's always like inside jokes, or it's like one joke and then it's not funny anymore. How do you write comedy to reach a wide audience? Because if you're writing inside jokes, it's going to be funny to two people. You can't make a career.
I don't know how I know. I write stuff and I just get a feeling like this could work.
Yeah.
I think I could make this into something funny that people will laugh at. And most of the stuff I go after are things that are everyday life things and things that people can relate to.
Yeah.
I like to say that I'm observing life out loud, I'm just making all the things we see funnier, and a lot of it comes from pain. So a lot of bits I have are breaking up with a girlfriend or losing your job or something like that, things like that. But some observational comedy in there too, whether it be, people using their cell phones or how people drive or whatever, And I don't know, I just always had a knack ever since I was a kid of just writing things in a perspective that related to people and it was amusing.
Yeah. And, we seem relatively the same age, with the big comedy boom in the 80s. Do you think that had because there was, HBO had a ton of specials.
Oh yeah,
and
it was a big influence on me.
The VH1 half-hour comedy hour.
I was at the record stores buying comedy albums as much as I was buying music albums.
Yeah.
So I'd be out getting the latest Motley Crue CD, and then also picking up the latest Adam Sandler record or Howie Mandel or all these guys.
One of my favorites was Bob Goldthwait's Meet Bob.
Yes.
That was a great album.
I had all of them. I literally did. I had a whole suitcase full of cassette tapes of comedy albums. And I knew them all by heart.
Yeah.
Like back then I could just like you knew the words to your favorite song, I knew all the words to a bit from George Carlin or whoever. And yeah, huge influence on me, all those guys. Especially the older guys, the George Carlins and the Eddie Murphys. But even going before that, Richard Pryor and Rodney Dangerfield and people from those days too, because I started looking into comedy from before I was in my generation. So I really even got into some like older stuff like a George Burns and guys like that. Like I loved the old school stuff. I loved the quick wit and the way they would use their face to tell a joke, and sometimes just a look on their face after a punchline would get an extra laugh. I was influenced a lot by like people like Johnny Carson, David Letterman, people like that. And yeah,
Rodney Dangerfield is like the perfect example. Like half of his joke was kind of his awkwardness or uncomfortable,
just self-depreciating comedy. Yeah, he was the king of that. That he doesn't get any respect, and and he was a character. And I like him a lot too because he was one of those guys who came on later in life. He didn't make it in. He didn't even really get started until later in life, and then made it big in like his 40s.
Right.
Where other guys start out at like 17, 18, 19 years old, and in their 20s they're already becoming famous. It took him a long, long time, later in life to do it.
Now, so you said he's kind of like he had a character. Do you think all good comedians kind of have a character on stage that they kind of like switch into, or do you think it's more, or is that like?
I think to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Obviously others do it more than some. Like someone like an Andrew Dice Clay, that's very much a character.
Right.
A lot of people like that. But say you look like somebody like a Bill Burr, for instance, he's himself. I think.
I would think that's pretty accurate.
I think that's just him.
Yeah.
So in some cases he's
or like a Tom Segura.
He's a character, but he's still himself too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in life he is kind of a character.
Yeah.
But then there are people who really go overboard and become a character.
Sure, like a Emo Phillips type.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, an Emo Phillips or any of those types of people. And that's still just as funny too. Everybody's got their thing. And I think that's good. I think every comedian should try to find just their own voice. You know?
Now, we've had comedians kind of bash on improv comedians, and I know there's always kind of like that heat on like, oh, he's a prop comic. Do you think that's just kind of people talking shit, or like? Is there...
I guess. I don't know. I've never had any of those issues with any other comedians. I don't have any problem with a prop comic. Go do it. If it makes people laugh, then great.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. But I guess some stand-up comedians are a little defensive of stand-up, and, improv is defensive of improv and stuff. And, to me, it's all comedy. I mean, if you're using puppets and throwing your voice, that's comedy to me, too. You know what I mean?
It's just, I just think it's funny. Like a lot of people shit all over like Carrot Top.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like
I don't
he
know
fills
why.
a room all the time.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Like,
I've gone to see Carrot Top live and laughed my ass off. I've
Yeah.
seen Jeff Dunham live. I've laughed my ass off. I think I don't know. Maybe they're just jealous of the fact that they had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
You know how much balls it must have took for Jeff Dunham to walk into a comedy club full of stand-up comedians
And be like, this is my doll.
with his hand up the ass of some doll,
Yeah.
and go on stage. Like that takes some real serious brass ones to do that, And same for Carrot Top to have walked into some club with a box full of stuff that he
Of
put
junk.
together in his basement.
Yeah.
I mean, comedy is very subjective, and as long as people are laughing and you're not hurting anybody, I'm for it. I'm for all of it.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with it. I don't want to see 3 prop comics in a row.
Right, yeah.
For me, I like comedy that kind of challenges me a little too when I'm watching it. But everyone should have their chance to shine.
Yeah. Is there anyone like up and coming that you got your eye on that like, oh, this guy's gonna be big?
Oh, I don't know if anybody comes to mind right now. I wish I watched more comedy that, like, I guess because I do comedy so much that I know everybody now. You know? So the guys who are coming up, who some people may not say they're coming, like a Mark Norman or a Joe List, people like that. Those guys are really funny, and they're just now starting to get their Comedy Centrals, and they're starting to get their little specials and stuff.
Well, Netflix seems to be the place now.
Netflix is rolling out a lot of comedians now. And some of them, I don't know if I feel like they're ready. Sometimes I watch some of those specials and I'm like, ooh, that person wasn't really, maybe they had 5 minutes and they tried to stretch 20, I
was watching one the other day. I wish I could remember who it was now. And it was funny, and then it got like kind of depressing.
Really?
Yeah. Oh man, I can't remember who it was now. And I because my son's a big fan of stand-up comedy, and like I'm like, hey, have you watched this? He's like, yeah, I kind of shut it off. And but I kind of respected because he was trying to do something different. It I missed me entirely.
Yeah. Well, that's going to happen, and maybe that comic has his or her own fans and everything too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find myself not watching newer comics as much anymore, and I probably should, but I don't know. I mean, I don't find a lot of time to just sit down and watch a comedy special anymore. I mean, I get excited over a few, if Joe Rogan or Bill Burr or Chappelle or somebody like that has one, I definitely make time to watch them, Seinfeld, and, I guess I still cling to some of the older guys too.
Yeah.
And,
who was it? Had a really... Ray Romano had one not too long ago. That one,
and I loved that.
Yeah, it was so great.
I like seeing the old-time comedians who ended up becoming actors or TV stars or movie stars go back and do it again. Even when Ellen DeGeneres did it.
Oh, hers was fantastic.
I thought it was I was
so
impressed.
Good.
I didn't think the whole special was great, but I was impressed
really
with her. She went right back to her quick-wittedness and her sneaky stuff. And I tried to put myself as a comedian in her shoes, like, all right, you're a billionaire now. You're as famous as can be. She's basically like the next Oprah now.
Yeah. And that was essentially the whole premise of the whole thing. Was like, oh, I'm not relatable.
Yeah,
I was
everyone
talking to
knows everything about her, so where's she going to go with that? And I was like, that's where she went with it. She went exactly with that. Like, she just found the irony in that.
I think she's brilliant. I think she's so funny.
She's really, really smart. She's, she's our modern day Oprah or Carson or whatever you want to say. She's daytime, but I mean, she kills it. I mean, everything she does is a viral moment on the internet now.
Yeah.
But her special, I thought, was really good. Like, I was impressed. I thought a little bit of it was fluff.
Yeah.
And I thought a little bit of it was, all right, her fans want this. They want this, like, silliness here.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought she had, like, a good, crisp, like, 15, 20 minutes that were, like, club solid to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, not that I'm the expert. But I was impressed by it. She made me laugh, so that's all that matters to me,
Yeah.
And the Ray Romano one I thought was really, really good. He was such a good stand-up.
And I love the way that he broke it down. And like, I'm going to go back to 2 clubs that I used to do, and go from one right to the other.
Yeah,
like,
and it wasn't even just that he went back to an old club. He went back to what New York comedians do: is they do a set, they run out the door, they go down the road, they jump on another stage at another club and do another set.
Yeah.
And a lot of comedians like him, back when they were starting out, they were bouncing around 3, 4, 5, 6 clubs a night in the city. And I thought that really brought out like that feeling of what it must have been like back then.
Yeah.
And he's just so funny.
Yeah.
He's so uncomfortable, and that, I guess, is his character, is being the uncomfortable guy in the room, But he was so funny back in the day, and it was like, boom, it was like he was just riding a bike. He was right back to it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was really a good one.
Do you, does every stand-up comedian shoot for, like, a Netflix special? Like, is that the dream now? Or
I suppose. I don't think I would turn it down if someone offered me one. But I'm not at a situation in my life where I feel like I'm who they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I don't like harbor any of those kinds of like goals. My goals is just to keep working and keep making people laugh and keep getting paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I mean, I'm not a road comic or anything. I'm just a regional comic. I perform around New England, and I know some bookers who will book me and some who won't. And some headliners who will ask me to open for them, and some who won't, and and they all come and go too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I've gone and done some festivals here and there, Los Angeles, Burbank, Palm Springs, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think you never know. But I don't think I'm going to be the next guy you see on Netflix. They're not coming to my neck of the woods scouting for comedians, really.
And when comedians talk, they always talk about like their act in minute You know, it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah. That's how you get booked. Is, hey, can you do 10 minutes on this show? Hey, have you got 30 minutes? You know, stuff like that. That's the language of the industry.
So do you take like a 10-minute bit and try to make it a 30-minute bit, or take a 30-minute bit and try to squeeze it into 10 minutes?
When I first started writing, for the first probably 3 or 4 years, a lot of my gigs were, hey, we need you to do 10. Hey, we need you to do 15. So I literally started writing my bits and timing them out so that they'd be in like chunks of 5 or 10.
Yeah.
So that I could just kind of like dominoes move them in and out if I wanted to. You know, it's like, oh, they need a clean 15. All right, I'll do this bit, and this bit. Mm-hmm. And I knew what ones I would do. And I guess for the most part that works now, but I don't normally get too many time restrictions anymore. Most of the jokes I'm telling now I've been telling for a while, and so I know I'm usually getting booked for the 25 or 30, you know, right. And so I'm usually good to go. I usually know what I'm going to do off the top of my head. But it is a good idea to do that because, especially when you're starting out, bookers hate when you go long.
Yeah.
And hate if you go too short, you know. And you never know what's going to happen when you're on stage. You could get a huge applause break that'll take 60 seconds. And now you're going to go over because you want to squeeze in that extra punchline at the end,
right,
and finish strong, and then you went over and you pissed off the booker. So it's like you got to kind of have a little bit of a sense of direction too, you know, and that just comes with practice, just doing it for a while.
And so when you were starting off doing that practice, was it just open mics? Did you just kind of like walk and be like...
Open mics,
yeah,
a little bit of open mics for me. I mean, that's the best place to go to work on your timing, but for me, I've never liked open mics much. I don't get a feeling of how things are working at an open mic.
The one thing that I've heard about them, I've never been to a comedic open mic. I've been to, you know, ones that are predominantly music.
Yeah.
But it tends to be comedians who were sitting there waiting for their turn.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, most open mics are going to be comedians sitting around working on their jokes, or if they've already gone up and they're hanging around, then they're talking and not paying attention during your set. You might get lucky and there's 3 or 4 people in the bar sitting there drinking, and maybe they pay attention. Yeah. Most times they don't care. So for me, I don't find an open mic to be constructive for me when I'm trying to build a joke. But it is a good place for a newer comic, I think, to learn how to be comfortable on stage, to know what to do with the microphone, with the stool, with the next comedian, or what to do when the room's not paying attention, and just get your timing down on jokes. Because it's all about repetition. But I always found one of the things I did early on was I started booking my own room. And every 2 weeks I had a show. And I would book some local comedians who were more experienced than me to be on the show.
Oh, so you kind of like run the show.
And it was my show, yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, I found a local bar, a cool place, had its own stage and everything, that they gave me a budget. And every other Thursday I would book 2 or 3 comedians that I knew from the area. And I would open the show and do as much time as I wanted. And I didn't have any restrictions because it was my show.
Right.
So I could try new stuff if I wanted. I could mix in some old stuff or do whatever I wanted to do. And that was a great way for me to learn, was from doing that.
How much do you, like you said, you kind of pick and choose and move around the jokes. Like, how much of that do you do to kind of cater to the room? Like, do you ever kind of like start on one bit and go, well, I'm clearly not telling that other joke.
Yeah, sometimes.
This one like died.
Sometimes you just get a crowd and you're like, all right, this crowd is not going to be into the edgy, dirty, filthy stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I may have to go in a different direction, or I may have to censor some of these jokes a little bit. Not a lot. For me, my stuff's not all that dirty. It's adult, but it's not filthy dirty or anything like that. Yeah. But I do talk about some adult stuff. And these days, comedy's just getting sensitive. More and more crowds are getting sensitive.
It's a weird time.
Yeah, it's annoying. Because I've got 2 or 3 jokes that I've been doing for quite a while now, 5 or 6 years, and they've always been great. They've always killed. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing crowds going, I don't know about that. And it's just because of the words I'm using.
Yeah.
I do a joke where I say the word lesbian and people are tightening up.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? What's the big deal? Like, I'm not making fun of them, you know?
Right. And some comedians have just a really amazing way of dealing with that. Like, we talked about Bill Burr, and somehow he like says crazy shit in the show, and he'll just be like, it's a joke, what do you want? And like everyone
Bill
goes,
Burr
okay.
is one of those
he just doesn't
honestly
comedians doesn't care.
Yeah, he's one of those comedians, not even that he doesn't care, he's actually very brilliant, but he's really really good at finding the rough edge of everything, and then justifying it to a point where you sit there and go, he's kind of right.
Yeah,
you know, like he'll come out on stage and be like, being a single mom is not the hardest job in the world, and most people be like, what is he saying?
And I feel like he does that to kind of get the audience off guard. Yeah, you know.
But he always has something to back it up with.
Yeah,
you know, and it's just brilliant, you know. But again, that's another situation where it takes balls to do that.
Tom Segura is much the same way.
I love Tom Segura, and he's a lot the same way too. Yeah, where it's like you really, I mean, no matter what comedy you're doing, you kind of have to not care, you know, not give a fuck. You still do, but you kind of have to be able to shake it off easily if it doesn't work. You know?
And it's one of those things, you know, it's like that old statement. I think someone made it about pornography. Be like, I can't explain it, but I know it when I see it. And it's like, it's hard to say where the line is, but it's clear when you crossed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. But you know what? Funny is funny, and that's really the only rule, is just, if it's funny, it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
You know, if people are going to be offended, then they probably weren't going to like any of your jokes anyways. You know what I mean?
And not every comedian's for everybody.
No, yeah. Comedy's very subjective.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, you're not always going to make every crowd happy. And sometimes it's not your fault. I did a show over the weekend where it was a dinner comedy show, and the show was supposed to start at 8:30. At 9:30, they were still finishing up the dinner. These people were so tired.
Yeah.
Like, they'd been there since, I think cocktail hour started at 5:30, and the dinner ran late, and everything ran late, and these people were just tired. Like, they'd been there too long.
Yeah.
You know, and now they got a belly full of prime rib. You know,
yeah.
They've had a few cocktails, and it was like a country club crowd, too. So they're a little bit older, you know, and so, yeah, some of my jokes fell flat, and I was just like, oh, this is just a sleepy room. And it was the same for all the comedians. It was just, you know, sometimes you just get a crowd that's just not into it.
What's
you know?
like, I mean, every comedian has that horrible crowd. Like, is there one that stands out? That...
I'm trying to think if I had one that was really, really bad. I can't think of any really. I mean, I know we get these questions all the time and should have a prepared answer. I can't say that I've ever had a really, really terrible crowd. I mean, there's been plenty of bar shows I've done where people just didn't care.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing comedy. This is my new rule now, is if someone says, oh, do you want to come do a set? You can go on in between the bands. I'm like, no.
Oh, there should never be comedy and bands together.
No,
like, I feel like
people listen to bands and they can still talk and they can still do what they want to do, but during comedy, they need to shut up and they're not going to. That's always the worst crowds.
I never understood the band that goes on tour and doesn't have an opening band has like a comedian.
That's not so bad because
I've never seen that work well.
Well, yeah, it doesn't work well. It depends on the type of band, and the type of comedian. You know, like for instance, like a comedian Craig Gass. He opens up for lots of rock bands. He'll go and open up for Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains and stuff like that. But he doesn't act that the crowd ends up liking him by the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, because he comes out and does impressions of Sam Kinison or does impressions of Gene Simmons and does jokes and stuff that's related to that type of crowd.
All right, so that makes a little more sense.
So if that's the type of crowd, it will mix well, you know? So, you know, but I don't know how they did it back in the old days where someone like Richard Pryor would be opening up for, you know, some R&B singer or something, you know, like... I just don't. Sometimes I don't know, but I've seen it before, and I've been offered some of those gigs too. I've had Cape Cod Melody 10 ask me if I want to open for Eddie Money or something like that. But yeah, I think it's best to keep comedy and music separate, especially if it's a bar show. If it's a theater show and the comedy's the first thing going up, it might work okay.
Yeah,
but if they play music and then you do comedy, it never works. It never works. It's the worst.
Yeah, it's such a weird concept.
It's the worst.
So you said your jokes are a lot about like observing life, and
mostly.
Now you're a full-time comedian. So is there like some sort? I don't want to say disconnect, but is it harder now because you know, like you could do like, oh, my day job this, and my day, working in an office is like this.
No, because I'm still, I'm not going to a 9-to-5 job or anything anymore. I'm not, and I've had a lot of strange jobs. So I still talk about all the old jobs that I've had because they're all interesting. I've worked in radio. I've worked in strip clubs. I've worked in retail.
Strip clubs, I can't imagine there's a lot of jokes that come out of that.
Actually, surprising, I do a couple.
Yeah.
But most of them just never worked.
Really?
And I think the psychology behind the strip club related stuff was that most people in the audience are guy and girl ratio, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, something like that. And
so the guy's not going to laugh because
the guy doesn't want to laugh, because she's sitting there,
Honey, I've never been to a strip club. I don't know what he's talking about.
Most of the women probably haven't been to a strip club, and they probably don't even understand what it's all about.
Yeah.
They've only, seen what they see on TV and not the real. So most of them didn't work, so I had to kind of do some just jokes that were kind of general that people would laugh at. And so I whittled it down. I used to have like 7 or 8 jokes, and I whittled it down to like 3 good ones.
Yeah.
And they worked out.
Is there a past job that's like really rich with comedic material? Like if I was going to be a comedian and I wanted to work a job that was going to be like, give me a lot of good jokes.
I think all jobs really do. I think any job you work, you can find the comedy in it. I mean, I've had jokes about working in the mall. I've had jokes about working in all different places. And no, I don't think there's one place that stands out more than the other. I think if you work someplace long enough, you're going to know what the funny is there.
Right. And
the trick as a comedian is to get other people to understand it and relate it to what their job might be like.
Yeah.
Something like that, or relate it to something topical. You could work at a grocery store or a restaurant or anything. There's funny everywhere you look.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what job you do.
Restaurants are, I feel like, I
feel like there's got to be a ton of stuff there, just the customers alone. I mean, these days, I think Uber drivers would have like tons of material.
I've actually seen like some Uber drivers like making their Uber driving into like YouTube channels now.
Sure, I'll bet. Yeah,
and it's kind of that old
kind of a reality type thing.
Yeah, and there used to be like, I remember there used to be a show. I want to say it was like HBO or Cinemax.
There was the was it Taxi Cab Confessional? That one?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Yeah. It all comes full circle like that. I don't know if they can legally do that, but
well, they work.
But I'm sure there's there's plenty of newer jobs. There's probably jokes you can make about podcasting.
No, we're not funny.
Maybe not yet.
Yeah.
But there's plenty. And I'll tell you the strangest place, because that'll be your next question, is the strangest show I've ever done. So that always goes along with those typical questions you ask a comedian. I worked at a nudist colony for a show one time.
Okay. I have other questions.
I'm sure you will. Yeah. One of them will be, did I perform naked?
Yeah, obviously.
No, I did not, but I did have the option if I wanted to.
Okay, all right.
All 3 comedians on that show chose to stay clothed. But one of them did eventually work up the nerve to go into the hot tub naked with some of the people from the nudist colony. But I'm just way too
I feel like
shy for that.
I feel like being a comedian naked on stage in front of 2 other comedians is just...
I don't think I could do it.
I
couldn't do it. I can't even walk around my house naked. So, I'm not going on stage naked. I won't even, no. But it was definitely an experience to be on a stage performing in front of an audience full of completely naked people.
So it's like that old thing where they're like, oh, if you're in front of public speaking, imagine everyone
Picture
naked.
them naked, No, don't do that, because I've seen it, and it's not going to help you at all. And the weird part of this place was it was outdoors, and we were like under this big like gazebo area, and most of the people were sitting on wooden benches or picnic table type things. Which I'm like, first of all, that's got to be a splinter issue.
Yeah,
there.
right? That was my immediate thought.
The other people brought their own chairs, but they were like beach chairs, like those low-to-the-ground beach chairs.
Yeah, okay.
So most of them were sitting with like their legs stretched way out to the sides.
Oh, man.
And just everything's just right there. And that was the front row, and I'm like, oh, man. And what was really funny was a lot of the men... only walked around naked from the waist down for some reason.
Really?
They were like Donald Duck. They just walked around with no pants on.
That's really
And I don't know why that was. And I'm like, first of all, I don't want to see any of you naked, but if I had to choose a half, it would be the top half. Yeah. And then some of the women would wear like something that covered them, but it would be absolutely see-through. It would be like some sort of like a lacy thing or a see-through thing. And I'm like, why bother at this point?
That's very weird. Like,
it was the strangest thing.
Oh.
I remember when the booker called me to do it, and he's like, hey, do you available such and such a date? And I'm like, yeah, what do you got? He's like, it's a nudist colony. And I was like, oh. And I was like, do I have to be nude? He's like, no,
See,
you
that's
don't.
the obvious first question.
And I'm like, all right, then I'll do it. I was like, because if I ever end up on the Tonight Show, I want to have a story to tell. So that's my story, the nudist colony story.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
So if Jimmy Fallon ever wants me to come on the show and tell that story, he's probably worked the same gig before in the past.
Yeah, that's wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, some of the fun times.
So you said you've worked in radio.
I did. Right here in Plymouth, actually, for a little while.
99.9?
99.1,
yeah.
WPLM. I did the morning show up there for a few years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I left there a little over a year ago. And but I worked. Radio was what I really wanted to get into when I was a kid. I went right to college, right to mass communications, right into radio from college, and worked radio on and off for the better part of 25 years.
Yeah,
all over New England, Boston, Cape Cod, Connecticut, Providence, everywhere. And yeah, the Plymouth job was the last job I had, and I think I've done enough of it. Yeah. I don't know if someone comes around and says, "Hey, you want another morning show?" And I don't know if you're going to pay me, maybe. But right now, I just like being my own boss and doing comedy, and I run a franchise called Funny for Funds now, where I get to. Funny for Funds is it's a fundraising company where we use stand-up comedy and help people raise money for whatever their cause is with stand-up comedy show. You know, they sell tickets and do raffles and things like that. It might be a youth sports league or a PTO or something. And it was started by two comedy friends of mine, Mike Murray and Bill Simus, like 5.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. They started it, just a small thing, maybe one show a week or something, back in the day down in Rhode Island. And it just kept building, more and more shows, more and more shows, more and more shows, to the point where they were doing 6 shows a night. And I was right there from the beginning, trying to help them out and trying to keep, run shows for them and do social media and make flyers and da-da-da. And now it's blown up to a thing where they've actually franchised it out. And so because I was there with them from the beginning, they were like, hey, why don't you just have your own franchise and go do what we've been doing all these years somewhere else? So I took the whole south coast of Mass as my regional area, and that's what I do now. So I book fundraisers and stand-up comedy, and then in between those shows, I'll go off and do, shows just for myself and other places.
So if I was raising money, I'd contact you, and then you'd...
Absolutely.
And you'd come up with the...
We would book a show, and I would show you all the different ways that you can make money at that show through fundraising ways, and we would help you with the ticketing and the flyers and the promotion, and we give you all our tips and suggestions, and we've got this really, state-of-the-art website that handles all the business end of it for you.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
At the end of the show, we end up sending you a check for the money you raised, and it's such a great thing because everybody's done a fundraiser where they've done the car wash, or they've sold candy bars, or they've stood outside the Stop and Shop, or whatever they have to do. Maybe you've done a spaghetti dinner or something.
My son sold mattresses.
Mattresses? I've heard that. High schools do a mattress sale or something.
And, I'm like, what the hell?
A comedy show is the best thing to do for a fundraiser because the people who are supporting you, they're getting something actually really good in exchange for the donation they're making. Right. They're getting a night of laughs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's a fun time, and they end up leaving having such a good night. And it's something that they remember,
right.
And a lot of our shows end up becoming annual shows every year because everybody talks about it and they want to come next year.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have that, they had laughs, so they're in a good mood, and they did something positive.
Yeah,
so
and it's an adult night out, they had a few drinks, and they had a few laughs, and it's like, hey, we donated almost $100 tonight to this cause, but we don't care because we had a good time, you know?
Yeah.
Where most of these other fundraisers, you go to them and you're just doing it because I got to do it.
Right.
I got to go to this spaghetti dinner. I got to go. Or I really don't want those kids touching my car, but I got to go do the car wash,
Yeah.
So this is just a fun way to do things, and so we've got franchises all over New England now doing it, and so people, and even further than that, we've got New York, South Carolina, Florida, we got franchises everywhere now, but pretty much all of New England is more or less covered, and funnyforfunds.com, you go to the website, and it's real easy to
just reach out that way.
And then we get in touch with you, and we consult with you the whole way, and it's a great way to raise money, and it's a great way to keep comedians busy.
Yeah.
That's the other cool thing about Funny for Funds is that we do literally hundreds of shows a year locally.
Yeah.
And we need 3 comedians on each one of those shows. So I would say there's probably anywhere from 600 to 800 extra gigs every year for local comedians just because of what we do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because it's so hard to get into comedy clubs and stuff, Like you take a comedy club and you figure, all right, they book mostly Friday and Saturday night. Mm-hmm. So you got, with holidays and weather and stuff, maybe they're booking, 48 weekends a year.
Yep.
and they're going to have 3 comedians on each show. That's not a lot of spots to
No.
fill. And they've got a lot of their regulars who come in once or twice a year, so those spots are already filled. So there's really only like a handful of spots to break in at some of these comedy clubs. So it's really hard for comedians to find actual stage time that's paid, you know.
Yeah.
So Funny for Funds pays all their comedians, and we make it look and sound and feel like an actual comedy club when we do these fundraisers. So it's a great way for comedians to get work, you know. I mean, it's not to say that we hire open micers or people who aren't ready, but there are a lot of great comedians in the New England area, you know, from hosts to features and headliners. And so, you know, we put them on those shows, and we try to cater the shows to the crowd that's going to be there, you know, because we're doing a church show. We'll get a clean, you know, set of comics. If it's adult show, anything goes. We'll get some of the dirtier comics on that. Yeah, it's all I do now, and it's so much fun. It's a lot of work, but
that sounds
it's
really
great.
Yeah,
it's
that
fun.
sounds fascinating.
And I get to be my own boss, which is the greatest gift in the world.
Yeah,
You know,
not for everybody.
yeah, not for everybody. You know. But it also gives me free time to do all these other things that I wanted to do that I didn't have time to do when I was working for someone else and making them rich. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like now I have time to do my own podcast, and I have time to do.
Do you have a podcast?
I do. It's not an interview podcast or a comedy podcast. It's actually a paranormal podcast.
Oh, okay.
So that would take us down a whole other avenue.
Yeah.
On this podcast.
So
But,
strictly ghosts or cryptids, and we're huge nerds, and like,
all of it.
Our
All of
podcasts
it.
go everywhere.
Oh yeah, you guys are nerdy about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's called My Paranormal Story,
Okay.
and I try to do every week. It doesn't always work, but they're all personal stories of paranormal things that I've experienced.
Yeah.
And it's usually only about 15 to 20 minutes long, and it's just me describing everything that happened that day. A lot of it will be ghost or spirit related, but there are a couple of UFO ones. There's a couple of you know, dreams coming true type of paranormal, ESP type stuff, all those different types of things. And I'm a big paranormal buff too, but I've also had many experiences throughout my life, and it actually led to me being a paranormal investigator for a while.
Oh, okay.
And
with capers?
No, with Rise Up Paranormal.
Okay.
And had lots and lots of interesting experiences in doing that. So some episodes I'll talk about one of the investigations we did.
Yeah.
And provide some of the evidence that we collected, EVPs, videos, whatever, pictures. And then sometimes I'll do a story where it's just a personal story of something that happened to me. Like for a while I lived in a haunted house in Providence, and I had lots of different experiences there. And and that's just been fun to do. I just do it out of my house. I don't interview anybody, so I don't have to book things.
Right. So you just do it whenever.
I just kind of do it at my own pace,
Yep.
and just release episodes when I'm ready to release them. And that was something I'd wanted to do for a while, and I just never had time, because even though they're my stories, I still had to kind of write them, script them.
Yeah.
And I try to put it together really well. So it's edited, it's got scoring, you know, it's got some production value to it. You know, I put my radio experience into it.
Right.
And it's actually taken off really well now. I'm getting lots of emails from people who listen, and I'm getting hundreds of downloads every day. And
oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, it's really taken off, which is cool. And I've kept it ad-free, but I've been asking people to donate a couple dollars if they can.
Do like a Patreon or whatever?
I even skipped the Patreon. I just said, just go to my website and click the donate button, and it goes right to PayPal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get 5 or 6 people a month who donate $5-10 each. Some people do it recurring, and it's enough to pay for the podcast. So I'm not getting rich off it or anything. I'm not making any money, but it pays for itself, and I have fun. I just got a great email the other day where a woman wrote in, and she said that she listens with her 2 kids every week. And
it's
like,
so cool.
Wow.
Like we've just kind of started to get some like feedback from some of the podcasts.
But you know what?
So cool.
All this time I've been doing it, like, because I'm doing it over a year now. I'm in the 30s now for episodes, and all I was picturing was like my friends listening.
Yeah.
I never pictured strangers or strangers and their kids listening too. You know? But it's kind of cool that they are, and I always tried to keep it, you know, clean and short, and you know, because I know everyone's attention span is short these days, and yeah, so it's fun. It's just something I like to do on the side. I don't do the paranormal investigation anymore, although I still talk to those guys a lot, and I'm still very interested in it. I just don't have time for it.
Yeah.
And it's just become such a fad that it's really not the thing. Like, I took it real serious, and when it just became such a fad that everybody had a group, I was just like, I'm done. I got to get out.
Yeah.
You know? But so this is how I kind of keep in it, is I do the podcast, and I'm hoping to turn it into a book or 2 or something like that.
Cool.
You know? Yeah, and have fun with it. But it's funny because I'm a comedian and I do paranormal. People are always like, "Oh, do you tell jokes about ghosts?" No, I don't. But if there's a paranormal expo who would like to book me to do that,
sure.
if you pay me enough money, I'll write ghost jokes. I don't care.
Well, Tom, where else can people go online to find your comedy stuff?
Well, my website for comedy is tomstewartcomedy.com. Or you can just look for me on Facebook. And Funny for Funds is funny4funds.com, the number 4. And myparanormalstory.com is the website for my paranormal stuff.
Stitcher,
so I've got,
iTunes.
Yeah, and you can check out the podcast on everywhere. It's Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify. It's on all of them. iHeartRadio's got it. All the major ones got it. Yeah, finally got on all of them.
Yeah, I don't think we're on iHeartRadio.
That one takes a while.
Yeah.
That one will take you a few weeks, but now's the time to do it because they're really trying to take over the podcasts.
Yeah.
They really want to be the place people go for podcasts. So I would go to iHeart when you can. If you go to their website, you can find out how to submit and everything.
I'll have to check.
And it's really, you just give them your RSS feed and they take care of the rest, just like all the others. But they do a real review. Like they take like 3 or 4 weeks because they really review what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's cool because you'll find a lot more people that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, this was a great basement. Thank you. I don't know. I'm in a brewery and you guys didn't offer me a beer at all. I'm kind of disappointed.
They don't have a drinking license here.
There's no drinking license here. Oh,
it's because it's a liquor store.
Yeah, but we're in the basement.
Yeah.
Who's going to find out?
Yeah. No, but thanks for coming to talk to us. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. Bring me back again, and I'll talk all about paranormal on another show. How's that?
Just sounds perfect.
How about Halloween? We'll do that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay,
awesome.
Thanks.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.